June 1942. The Pacific Ocean, endless, silent, and deadly. In these waters, one of the most decisive battles in modern history was about to unfold. But these wasn't just a clash of ships and planes. It was a war of minds, and in a small room, filled with cigarette smoke and cryptic radio signals, a handful of codebreakers would alter the fate of the world. 6 months earlier, Japan had stunned the world with its attack on Pearl Harbor. The American Pacific Fleet was crippled, battleships burning, aircraft destroyed, morale shattered. To secure its dominance of the Pacific, Japan planned one final, crushing strike and ambush that would lure the remaining U.S. carriers into a trap and destroy them for good. The target, a tiny speck of land called Midway Atoll, strategically located between Asia and North America. They called it Operation Me. But the Americans would soon know every detail of it before a single shot was fired. In a basement at Pearl Harbor, inside a secret unit known as Station HYPO, a quiet intelligence officer named Joseph Rock and his team worked day and night, intercepting thousands of Japanese naval transmissions. The messages were encrypted using a code called JN25, a nightmare of random numbers and hidden meanings. It was designed to be unbreakable, yet, piece by piece, the Americans began to crack it. Rochefort and his team noticed a recurring coding name for the next major Japanese target. But what or where was AF? Guesses ranged from Hawaii to the West Coast. To confirm their suspicions, the U.S. Navy set a clever trap. They ordered the American garrison on Midway Island to send an unencrypted radio message, in plain English, complaining that their water purification system had broken down. It was a gamble, but it paid off. Just 2 days later, an intercepted Japanese transmission reported that AF is short on fresh water. The ruse had worked. FWA's Midway. The target was clear. The trap was set. Armed with this critical knowledge, Admiral Chester Nimitz, commander of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, made a bold decision. He moved his 3 remaining carriers, Enterprise, Hornet, and the hastily repaired Yorktown to lie in wait. Hidden northeast of Midway, the Japanese fleet, under the command of Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, steamed toward Midway with overwhelming force, including 4 of their most powerful aircraft carriers. Kaga, Soryu. They were confident that surprise was on their side, but Nimitz had flipped the script. For the first time since the war began, the U.S. Navy would be the ambusher, not the ambushed. At dawn on June 4th, 1942, the first wave of Japanese aircraft roared into the sky, striking Midway Island in a storm of fire and steel. The island's defenders fought back bravely, launching outdated bombers that were torn apart by Japan's superior Zero fighters. But while the Japanese focused their attention on the island, American scout planes were desperately searching the vast ocean for the enemy fleet. The clock was ticking. Then, at 7:28 a.m., a U.S. scout plane from the Yorktown spotted the Japanese carriers. The coordinates were radioed back, and in an instant, the hunters became the hunt. The first American attack wave was a near-suicide mission. Torpedo squadrons flew their slow, outdated TBD Devastator bombers low over the water, directly into a wall of Japanese anti-aircraft fire and swarming Zero fighters. Almost every single plane was shot down. The sacrifice was immense, a tragic loss of brave young pilots. But their sacrifice was not in vain. By drawing the Japanese fighters down to sea level to defend against the torpedo attack, they left the skies above the fleet wide open. Just then, arriving from high altitude and unseen by the Japanese, American SBD Dauntless dive bombers from the Enterprise and Yorktown began their terrifying descent. In a matter of 5 chaotic minutes, the course of the entire Pacific War was changed forever. Bombs rained down on the Japanese carriers Akagi, Kaga, and Soryu. Massive, uncontrollable explosions ripped through their flight decks, which were packed with fully fueled and armed aircraft preparing for a second strike. 3 of Japan's most elite carriers were turned into blazing infernos. Only one, the Hiryu, survived the initial onslaught. She launched a desperate counterattack that managed to severely damage the American carrier Yorktown. But by sunset, the Hiryu 2 was found and sunk by American aircraft. By nightfall, the once invincible Japanese carrier force was gone. 4 fleet carriers destroyed, over 3,000 experienced sailors and airmen lost, and most important, Japan's core of highly trained naval aviators had been wiped out, a loss from which they would never recover. The United States lost 1 carrier, the Yorktown, but gained something far more important: the strategic initiative. From this moment on, Japan would be on the defensive in the Pacific, and back in that quiet basement in Pearl Harbor, a tired group of codebreakers allowed themselves a small, quiet cheer. The men who had won the battle without firing a single shot could finally exhale. The Battle of Midway was more than just a military victory. It was proof that knowledge could defeat power, that intelligence could change the course of history. 4 days, 4 carriers, 1 monumental turning point. This is the incredible story of how a few brilliant minds and a clever ruse helped sink an empire. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the pivotal moments of history. We'll see you in the next one.